Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's live trading session and review of the trading week. So it's been a good week. It didn't start a good week. Obviously, Monday was quite a poor day. A couple of stops triggering during the course of the day, but then since Tuesday, it's been a very good week. Couple of small losses on individual trades, but by and large a positive week. So much so that, as we'll see in a few minutes when we look at the trades, running at about a 750 pip profit for the week so far. So been buying the Dow on dips the last couple of days, holding on to those trades a little bit longer maybe than usual. But the trades have been successful. So I'm not going to over risk this afternoon. Probably the first losing trade will be my last trade, and just look to take opportunities to buy on those moves below 33,000. We have seen moves lower today. We did a little bit yesterday, but reasonably well supported around this 33,000 level. And I really am expecting that to continue. We did trade down to about 870, 860 maybe this morning before bouncing. But obviously the US markets are only just about to open. I've seen gold trade off a little bit. We did sell this morning at 1990. It's moved back down to about 1975. I think gold is doing its best to upset me, whether it's a week where gold goes up or gold goes down. Last week I was on the wrong side of gold, as we know, for the majority of the week, if not all of the week. And then this week, a couple of the gold sales have been quite nice, but I just haven't kept in for the duration, and so I haven't seen all of the move. And some of that comes from confidence of having a couple of bad weeks there with gold and getting out of the trades a little bit quicker than I should have if held on to that last trade. Did trade up to about 1992 before it started to succumb to some of the profit taking and some of the selling pressure. Had I held on to that, it'd be up about 140, 150 pips on gold at this particular time. With the Dow, just looking at the Dow, we have about 6.5 minutes or so to go to the opening bell. It's come off from those highs. Just going to put some definition here so you can see what I'm talking about. This is only a minute chart, so let's not read too much into to what it says. See these moves up to about 33,050. Didn't really continue with the momentum up there. And we're back down just above that 33,000 line. So this is slightly lower than I think the market closed yesterday. But I expect to see some buying coming into this market as we've seen over the last couple of days. But just widen this out. So we're looking at a half-hour chart now, or a 30-minute chart for those of you who like to look at it in those terms. And you can see that on this chart, moves towards this 32,900 level have always seen a bit of support over the last period. Picking this out on a daily chart, probably going back to about 32,700 here if we do see a push lower, before hopefully we see a continuation of that move higher. Further support, quite a bit lower down, around that 32,000 level, maybe just slightly below it. But really what I'm looking for is for this market to hold here. As I wrote about in the market comment early this morning, and I'm sure as you will all know as well, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq are flirting, or fighting, if you like, as well with that 200-day moving average, and we might see a dip below and then a decent rally. I think that's what we saw a little bit yesterday with a couple of those moves down to those levels, and then a nice move back up higher in the Dow. The Dow was the best performing of the three US markets, and I'd like to hopefully see that continue today. So certainly one eye on what the 200-day moving average, where that currently is, the Dow 200-day moving average. We are already trading fairly significantly below that. That's the Dow 200-day moving average there. It's about 700 points away from where we currently are. But the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq are on those levels, or slightly below those levels as I'm speaking. So whether or not we see a continuation and a drop from those levels, or a bounce, which is what I'm looking for, that will have direct relevance on the Dow as well. So I am running a bid just for the opening bell here, so that we do have a live trade. Hopefully I've flattened out all of my positions earlier this morning, but just put a trade in there. I'm just going to check the level that I put that in. I think it was about 32,990, might have been just below it. So 32,984. I have a bid looking to get back into this market and see where we go from here. For the time being though, we're about 30 points above those levels. Just looking to hopefully pick something up on the opening bell, get a buy to come in and push the market back to the upside. But for the time being, fairly static around these levels. Just having a look at gold. Gold continuing to trade around that 1977.5 level, towards the lower end of what we've seen so far today. This is a 4-hourly chart. I'll bring that down to a 1-minute chart. So you can see we're back off of those 1975 lows. I do think that over the last few days, let's widen this back out to an hourly chart at least, we did trade down towards that 1960 level. So a potential for a move back to those sort of levels. Didn't spend a lot of time there, as you can see, with the one candlestick, albeit an hourly candlestick, but a move back to those levels is quite feasible. Currency's not doing a great deal either. Sterling towards the higher end of where it's traded today, just back above 121. The euro trading around 105.40. Obviously the ECB in the last hour or so have announced that they're going to keep rates steady. There've been various comments from Lagarde during the conference that's been ongoing, but almost a carbon copy of what you hear from Jerome Powell, in that decisions from this point will be will be data dependent, will be driven by that data. And whilst there are no forecasts or even discussions about when rates may start to lower, there is certainly a feeling at this time, as there is in the US to a certain degree, that we are very much at the end of the rate hike policy. Whether there is one more in the US, it may well be that we don't see any more in the in the Eurozone. 10 consecutive rate increases, inflation is moving lower. Still a long way to go to that 2% target, and I've written many times on the market comment in the morning that last move towards 2% is always going to be the hardest. So we really just have to wait and see, and as Lagarde has intimated as well, is wait for the data to show further moves towards 2%. 2% remains the target in the Eurozone as well, but as I said, will be the hardest part of the move. So we're trading a little bit lower here in the Dow, not quite open, but not far off it, only about 10 points off my limit. Not quite triggering, and we've seen market is open, and slight move to the upside in the beginning, fairly close to my limit again, traded down to about 988. My limit bid is at 984. Having another go at the moment. If I was quick enough, I'd probably buy these levels and try to cancel my order. Problem being is that if you're not quick enough, you end up with two. So we went bid at 985, just missed on my limit, and we've moved a little bit higher. So if you were more aggressive than me and you managed to get on that trade, You've got a 35, 40 pip profit at the moment, and would certainly be thinking of taking a profit there. Unfortunately, I missed by 2 pips, and just looking to see how this market plays out over the next minute or so. But my limit bid's still there. I'm going to hold it for the time being. If we push all the way up to about 33,100, could possibly be interested in selling at those levels. But for the time being, there's nothing to be done. Just in relation to how the other markets have opened, gold has ticked up a little bit, sterling that little bit firmer, the euro is pretty steady. The DAX, we often see that it waits for confirmation from the Dow in terms of how that first 10-15 minutes of trading is going to go, and as we can see there, the Dow's pushing back up towards 33,050. It's an aggressive sale at those levels. We have we have sold off from those levels a couple of times already this morning. It's a bit too aggressive for me to get involved. If we do see another 20 pips or so, then might be a trade that I start to get interested in. So as much as, and I think the news out of the ECB was positive enough in terms of the rates have been held. There will, of course, be a feeling that something similar is going to happen in the US. Clear signs that we're moving lower on inflation, but nothing concrete in terms of what's going to be happening down the line. I think Christine Lagarde even almost refused a question on forward guidance, suggesting that it wasn't relevant at this time. So once again, a sell at 50 would have worked quite nicely for you. It traded all the way back down to 33 even. So the ranges so far this afternoon are super narrow. We are catching a bid as I speak and trading back up towards 50. But we seem to be caught in that 33,000 to 33,050 level whilst the market looks for some form of momentum. And as I said, right in this range at the moment where I really don't want to trade. I'd like either to be 100 points higher or possibly looking to buy on another one of those moves back to 33,000. Passed up on a couple whilst I've been talking. So let's go over to the results for this week so far. So as it stands, I have no trades open, up 837 pips for the week, and pretty much as I said earlier, stopped out on a few trades on Monday, but then from Tuesday it's just been a steady improvement or a fairly steady return. 311 pips on Tuesday, 481 on Wednesday, and then 238 or 258. My eyesight is not as good as it should be, but steady returns on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Looking as always, the number of winning trades far exceeds the number of losing trades. All of the products have been successful, although gold, as you can see there, a rather paltry 39 pips return, as opposed to some of the losses that I encountered on gold last week. So not the sort of return that I'm aiming for, but still positive, albeit only marginally so. I don't think there's anything in particular to mention about these trades. A lot of it has been around things that I've already spoken about in terms of that support when we get back to 33,000. Gold is a losing product for the last couple of weeks, is very much just a break-even product this week, and certainly would suggest that I continue to trade very limited, if at all, on gold. And then the indices have been nicely profitable, in particular the Dow, which has seen that increased level of volatility and some decent moves. I'm just going to close that down, and as we come back to the main screens, there's not a great deal of change. Dow still trading in that range, 33,025, right in the middle of the range. ticking back down at the moment towards 33,000. But once it gets there, it does tend to stabilise and look for a move higher. Coming close to my limit bid, again, about 10 pips away at the moment. Just see if we do trigger. It didn't again, unfortunately. So maybe looking for a little bit too much on that bid, although we're in the vicinity of the trade at the moment. As I've said many times as I've done these webinars over the years for you and for a different number of people, if a trade works, there's no harm in repeating it. And I think if you'd got onto that trade a little bit higher than I did, or you were bid slightly above me and got onto that trade, there's been probably 3 or 4 occasions in the last 5 to 10 minutes where you could have repeated that trade. So pushing back now, this will probably be the time that we push right through the level and we never see it again. But we've seen, so 84 was bid there. 84 was the low bid, jumped up about 10, 13 pips again, 20 pips. So again, the trade was there if you wanted to take it, and that trade could have really genuinely been repeated 5 or 6 times in the last 5 or 6 minutes of trading. But still, my bid doesn't trigger. Went 85 bid that time, 86 bid. As soon as I finish this webinar, it will probably trigger. It should have triggered there, though the market is quite wide from time to time. So we did go at 82 bid, still didn't get a fill. I'm pretty, must be filled this time round. Yeah, so I am filled finally on that order at 984. It's trading already up to 994, 10 pips or so worth of profit in that if you cared to take that. If it goes up to 33,004, probably look to take profit around those levels and look, as I've mentioned already, to repeat the trade again shortly. So did go up very briefly there to 33,004. I was just getting my phone ready to take the trade and missed it. But hopefully we'll see that level again, and I'll work my way out of that. But for the time being, we're getting very close to the end of this session. I don't see any questions necessarily coming through on the screens. So just jumped up nicely there. Didn't quite get the best possible fill on that, but out of that trade. Got about 30 seconds or so left here. So what I'm going to do is just have a quick run around these markets, see where they are. Sterling and the euro not doing a great deal. Gold has jumped up to 1981. Still looking reasonably firm around this 33,000 level in the Dow, and the DAX is trading towards its low since we started this session. So I'll have a look at the DAX, I'll have a look at the Dow, still slightly inclined to be long these markets, but I'll be back on Telegram very shortly. Thank you very much for joining me.